What's going on, everyone? It's your boy Savvy, and welcome back to the Savvy Show. And in today's episode, we got another non-animation reaction. So far, man, I've been loving them. The ones I've at least been reacting to thus far, they've been top tier. And hopefully this will be the same level, because a few of you guys recommended me this SCP. I'm going into this completely blind. I didn't look at any prior, texts or any documents of this SCP. Just going off the title alone, the thumbnail can't really figure things out. It literally looked like the queen from Beowulf. I forgot her name, but this SCP is SCP-4812 Wrath. So from my assumption, I'm just going to assume this is going to be a deadly and strong SCP that is probably causing multiple calamities around the world to get the name Wrath. Who knows? Or it might be an event itself. I'm not too sure, but I know one thing. We're going to find out today. So if you guys are excited for these reactions, these non-animation reactions, like always, smash that like button if you do enjoy the reaction and you want to see more in the future. And also smash the sub button because I make SCP content daily for you guys, so you'll always get your fix of SCP heat. And I'm telling you, you don't want to miss an upload. And for you to do that, hit that bell so you can stay plugged with each and every upload. And like always, special shout out to the Exploring series. I am loving his work with these non-animations. Honestly, I can't tell him to do a better job because I'm loving each and every reaction. And I'm sure it's just going to get hotter. So with that being said, without any further ado, let's get this show started. Alrighty. SCP-4812 Wrath. Let's go.
SCP-4812 Wrath. The SCP universe is primarily one focused around humans.
Hold up. I use a lot of Dark Souls related imagery for this one because, well, you'll see. Oh, okay, so this person was from Dark Souls. I literally thought it was the queen from Beowulf, but I was wrong. Anyway, let's keep it going.
And the effects that these anomalies have on human life. There are articles I've touched upon, though, that are about anomalies interacting with other anomalies, and histories of species other than humans. History often bleeds into the present, though, and with SCP-4812, we'll be looking at some remnants from a couple past kingdoms and setting up for something larger.
Past kingdoms?
SCP-4812 describes not one, but 3 separate entities that are collectively designated as 4812.
What? 3 SCPs?
One of them is classified as safe, one is Euclid, and one is Keter.
Well, okay, well, not 3 different SCPs because all 3 of these are one SCP. No, that's unique in itself. I don't think I ever came across SCP like this. One safe, one Euclid, one Keter. Dang. All flavors. Okay, let's keep it going.
So we can refer to them as S, E, and K
SEK.
for simplicity. There's also mention of a 4th redacted entity, but we'll get to that one towards the end.
Sweet.
4812-S is a large amorphous entity located in a pitch-black cavern underneath France.
So this is a safe one.
It's attached to the cave walls by a number of long adhesive appendages, and its body is covered in many more of these appendages.
Okay.
The entire entity is covered in fine, water-repellent hair.
Hair?
S's anomalous effect is that any living being that views it, either directly or through images or videos, will experience a violent, fatal reaction that is similar to covering your eyes, brain, and nervous system in extremely caustic acid.
How is this safe? How is this? Oh, yo, let's just keep it going. This is crazy. This is a safe?
This effect is immediate and untreatable once initiated.
Untreatable.
Leading victims to suffer severe pain, bleeding through skin and orifices, paralysis, asphyxiation, and eventually death.
Jesus.
For this reason, no amount of light is to be let into the cave, and only a completely blind MTF is allowed to interact with the entity.
Okay.
Even the hairs shaved off of the creature cause severe nausea, hallucinations, and swelling of the eyes and brain if viewed, leading to death as well if not treated promptly.
Okay, I can kind of see if this creature is unmovable, which I'm assuming it could only reside in this cave, then yeah, I can see it's safe. Just put caution tape, everything be all fine and dandy. But let's be honest, the threat level of this SCP, say something happens, like an earthquake happens and it gets released. How could that be safe? And it's not technically being contained unless you are actually building a base around it. I don't know. We'll see.
Because of these effects, the Foundation isn't really sure what the creature truly looks like, but they do believe that its appendages extend deep into the earth around the cave.
Wow.
Since the cave is sealed with multiple maximum security vault doors, and 4812-S doesn't really do much, it's pretty safe. So far, so bloodborne, but we're ramping up now for 4812-E.
Alright, let's see. If we're starting with this, it's going to get juicier.
Is a humanoid entity around 15 meters, or 50 feet in length.
Okay.
Constructed primarily of platinum and other metals.
Whoa.
Its anomalous effect is that it's a near-perfect heat sink, and the temperature around its body normally is extremely cold. Basically, its body automatically sucks the heat from around it, and it's capable of reducing a standard containment cell to near absolute zero in around 16 seconds.
He absorbing the heat?
Because of this effect, E is constantly surrounded by an aura of frozen air and water, unless exposed to high temperatures, obscuring its true appearance.
That's really cool.
Obviously, this effect is pretty lethal to humans, killing in seconds as the water inside of their bodies freezes.
Yo.
E is contained then by being kept inside of a tank of molten iron, in a containment chamber that's kept at a constant 1400 degrees Celsius.
How did he get him in that container, though? How is that even possible, knowing the effects that this SCP has? Yo, this is crazy.
A drop in internal temperature of more than 50 degrees is considered a breach of containment. Okay, a little trickier, but still contained.
Mm-hmm.
The Foundation is having a lot of trouble, though, with 4812-K. K is a massive winged insectoid resembling a cross between a stag beetle and a scorpion.
What?
It's roughly 180 meters, or nearly 600 feet in length, with 6 appendages, 2 of which end in large pincers, and a long tail ending in a serrated barb. Curiously, though, instead of an insectoid mouth and eyes, it instead has a human face, the size of a normal human male.
Yo.
Meaning that it looks especially small compared to its massive body.
Okay, that's eerie. That's gonna give people nightmares. Oh my god. That alone should let it be Keter. Like, no one wants to capture that. Are you kidding me?
It also has 4 wings, and its entire body is covered in a thick, highly reflective chitin, making it nearly invisible visually. K spends most of its time in the upper stratosphere of Earth, rarely moving in any perceptible way except to maintain altitude. Because of its invisibility, the fact that it doesn't produce heat or reflect sound, and its rate of movement meant that the Foundation had no idea it even existed for a long time.
For real, dang.
Now that they know it exists, though, they of course have to try and contain it, but it's been rough going.
Yeah, that's nearly impossible.
Any drone that could keep pace with it, as it can travel in excess of 800 kilometers per hour,
Sheesh.
are easily destroyed by its strength and size. Any weapon that has actually connected with it has not damaged it in any perceptible way. In fact, it would seem that any kinetic energy that collides with it is reflected entirely, leading Foundation researchers to think that the entity is in some way a near-perfect reflector.
For real? And it's invisible,
too. So far, then, we have 3 rather unique entities.
How are they all related,
really
though?
Pose an excessive threat, but also don't seem to be connected in any meaningful way.
What?
We're told that none of the entities should ever be exposed to either of the other 2.
Yeah, why?
We'll have to read on to find out more.
They have to be related. Or they have to have some ties with one another for them at least not to be, in contact with one another. So I'm really intrigued to see now because they seem so different.
Next item related to 4812 is a series of documents and artifacts recovered from an anomalous collector before his death. The collection is named the Connington set, after the 18th century English archaeologist and occultist Winston J. Connington, whose research led the Foundation to discover multiple SCPs. The collection includes 16 coins of various shapes and sizes, none of which match any known currency, 5 Egyptian papyrus scrolls that appear to be ancient star maps, with illegible notes in the margins that seem to have been bleached out at some point. 3 large leather-bound tomes written in German, full of what appear to be archaic coordinates, with one book marking changes in temperature. These books were seemingly written over the course of many years. A brass spyglass with a cracked crystal lens containing a number of small ornate mechanisms.
Okay.
A thick burlap sack containing at least 3 more consecutive burlap sacks, and in the center, a thick gelatinous mass. Looking at the sack tends to make subjects feel ill and suffer from a slight burning sensation behind their eyes. A pair of glasses with iron frames and solid iron lenses, which, when worn, show a slight glow when looking at the burlap sack.
What is going on?
A thin circlet made of gold and platinum, with 3 prongs situated around the circlet, 2 of which are broken, and one contains a small glass sphere that is warm to the touch.
Okay.
Finally, there's a journal, written by Connington himself, which contains depictions of all 3 4812 entities and his personal research.
So they're all together.
One of the 3 leather-bound books has a short section in Italian, presumably written by a different author than the rest, containing a list of names and dates. Many of the dates have another number written after the date, such as 1343-89, listed next to the name Tornold of Yair. The rest of the section has been translated for us, and it's here we get our first bit of history. There apparently was a great old lost kingdom that was respected above all others, known as the House of Apollyon, or the Sky Kings of Old Europe.
Ooh.
The first of their kings, Harion von Apollyon I, was said to have descended from the blood of the King of Crimson Skies, often called Assem, the First Man. The Sky Kings apparently ruled old Europe for 100 generations, facing opposition from the Deva to the east, and those faithful to the Iron God to the south.
I wonder if all 3 of these SCPs represented one kingdom.
Presumably meaning the Mechanites, the precursors to the Church of the Broken God. The House of Apollyon were conquerors, and it was some conquered foes that first called King Idas von Apollyon Sky King, because it was said that his reach extended past the bounds of the earth.
Damn, that's cool.
Complacency reared its ugly head, though, and eventually King Cyrus von Apollyon VIII grew bored with ruling old Europe and set out to conquer an even greater realm.
Oh.
He looked past the lands of men, across the sea where the fair folk were said to live, and set sail with the largest army ever assembled on the path of unnecessary war. I've talked about fairies in the SCP universe before, in SCP-4000 and the Factory 001 proposal, but knowledge of these articles is irrelevant for this one.
Okay.
The fair folk were caught up in a war with the emerging power of the Children of the Moon, presumably meaning SCP-1000, and were blindsided by Saurus's attack.
SCP-1000? So Bigfoot? Unless there's another SCP-1000. What the hell? Let's rewind this a little bit.
Children of the Moon, presumably meaning SCP-1000.
Children of the Moon?
And were blindsided by Saurus's attack. Their people were utterly brutalized and scattered, with the nobility stripped down and mutilated.
Damn.
Only one survivor was taken as a trophy, a Fey princess. The princess had other plans, though, and on the return trip, she cast a wicked spell upon the House of Apollyon and the Sky King in particular, bringing a terrible storm down onto the ships. During this, she prayed to an old and nameless god for vengeance upon the House of Apollyon, and legend says that her iron chains caught fire and burned Saurus's ship to cinder.
Holy shit.
They also say that Saurus himself was dragged down into the ocean depths by those same iron chains.
Dang!
The destruction wasn't total, and the remaining ships managed to still take the princess back to the kingdom where young Cyrus von Apollyon IX now ruled.
How did the ship take you? I thought you burned the ship to a cinder. How did it take you back home? At least to their home. What? And even if there was another ship that got you, why would they rescue you and not the captain? What the heck?
Knowing what she had done, Saris threw the princess into a dungeon deep beneath the earth and sealed it, leaving her to rot in the dark.
Good.
To assist in preventing any further retribution from the fair folk and their dark magic, Saris appointed 4 great knights to defend the kingdom. Lahyre the Fierce, Lancelot the Cunning,
Lancelot.
Hector the Stalwart, and Ogier the Faithful.
The Faithful.
So far, this is just starting to sound like the plot for Dark Souls 4, and while we can safely guess that the amorphous entity in the cave under France is the fairy princess, the explanation for the other 2 is a little murkier.
Oh, that would be interesting. And one, I never played Dark Souls, so I don't know what he's referring to as their plot. So I'm coming in this blind. I don't even know what the game is even about. So interesting. So the princess would be the safe the safe version of this SCP. Okay, let's see.
Unfortunately, the majority of Connington's journal is written in a cipher, but a few short sections have been translated. One section quotes an archivist that worked for the House of Apollyon and discusses the first of the great profanities. Apparently, the voice of the enemy beneath the earth spoke to the souls of the 4 great knights, and Sky King Apollyon was forced to banish them. The long night settled over his kingdom, and the winter winds came from the east, but Hector did not answer.
What?
From the far darkness came something called the Venuvinex, or the Profane Restrictor, the first of the great profanities. The Venuvinex cast a cold hand across the king's only daughter, killing her.
So this is a Euclid one.
The king retaliated by taking the godless lance and the mammoth's hide and drove the spear into the Venuvinex, driving it into the flaming heart of the earth.
Oh, man.
Interesting. And it's worth noting that the 4 knights are not the 4812 entities. They became something else that isn't really relevant here. The point is...
The 4 horsemen or something? I'm assuming. I know it's not relevant, but I'm just making that assumption. I'm assuming this SCP, this part of the story is the Euclid part of the SCP. That is the humanoid, 50-meter tall humanoid that, absorbs heat. Because he was stabbed to the core of the earth, which was heat. Maybe that has a correlation to it, but we don't know. But we'll find out.
Is that they couldn't protect the kingdom from these profanities, the first of which seems to be E, the metallic entity that sucks the heat from the air around it. The king lost his daughter to this monster, but he managed to drive it deep into the earth where the great temperature will subdue it, using the godless lance. As for the identity of this lance, if you're familiar with the Ouroboros cycle, you've heard of it before.
Oh, the god-killing weapon. Yo, so that's where it's from. Wow. So no wonder you guys recommended this one for me after I did the 05 Council Must Die, part of the Ouroboros cycle. Okay, that makes sense. So this is the origins of it?
Referred to as the Spear of the Non-Believer.
Dang.
Another section discusses another of these profanities, the Profane Adamant, also called the Lamenelont, or the King of Many Faces, by the Deva. This would be 4812-K, and it apparently caused a lot of issues for the Deva, as it appeared as if from a space beyond space to destroy their kingdom.
Space beyond space, wow.
Anything that the Deva and their warriors tried to do against the creature was turned back on themselves.
Dang.
And when they had been ground into dust, the creature took their faces and returned to the skies.
Took their faces? So is that the face that he's using, the human face? Because he doesn't have an insect face. That's one of the faces of the fallen people that he defeated. Bro. He's like the definition of a full counter, completely. I really like the K part of this SCP. And the Euclid, too.
The final of the profanities was known as the Profane Dark, as it festered in the enemy's grave until it soaked through the earth and burst out.
Okay. This is the one that's retracted?
It pulled the Sky King into the void, and the Sky King cursed it by calling it Yash, the last foe of man. And when the
What?
Sky King watched as his kingdom was ruined without the assistance of the four knights, all he could repeat was one word: wrath. The author says that he has seen the face of the Lemenelant, and he knows of the fiery chasm in which the Venuvinex seethes, but he dares not seek out the profane dark. Quoting another author, they write that the eyes of Yash offer no release into death, only the winding roads of torment that lead to the puller of eyes and sharpener of spines, where no man returns and no voices are heard. The castle of fire, the king of crimson skies, the reaper of dreams, flees from the eyes of Yash, the last to scream of the nameless folk beyond the sea.
What is going on?
Men scream out and are silenced. The light of the sun invites order to the most fundamental nature of this world, and the Yash abhors it. Wrath, wrath, wrath. This would seem to be the redacted entity mentioned only briefly at the start, the greatest of the three profanities, and what sounds like quite a cosmic horror. Enough history, though.
So is this
Let's bring
retracted?
things back to the present with the Foundation's containment efforts of S, E, and K. K first came to the attention of the Foundation in 1964, when it passed over the northern USSR and was mistaken for an experimental US aircraft.
Oh my god,
causing
that's
Soviet
so
fighters
huge.
to engage it. K rapidly ascended and disappeared from sight before re-engaging the fighters at high speeds and quickly destroying them.
God damn.
Since then, K has only been detected a handful of times, mostly due to visual distortions caused by its reflective skin. It seems to follow a vague pattern over the Earth, often passing over the containment sites of S and E, as well as something else, which is redacted.
Okay.
E was found shortly after the Foundation received the Connington set, following up on some coordinates in one of the tomes.
Makes sense.
This led them to a thermal anomaly beneath a lake, and their investigations ended up opening a fissure beneath the lake, causing temperatures to rapidly drop, as E was released from the thermal vent it was trapped in. An MTF was brought in to contain the entity, but its temperature-draining effect made this difficult. Worse still, E was beginning to move towards the nearest population center, resulting in the MTF utilizing long-range artillery weapons to bombard it. The combination of a controlled gas explosion next to E and a mass of molten slag being dropped on top of it by remote drone led to the entity finally being contained.
You guys are lucky you didn't notice that getting dropped on top of him. Honestly. But we'll keep it going. You guys did it, though.
As for S, the Foundation administrator had mentioned the site of the cave in his notes as a location of interest, since other occult investigative organizations had known about the cave for some time. Up until Foundation involvement, though, they believed that the cave itself was an anomaly, since no one who had gone in had ever come back out.
That would make sense.
On June 9th, 2002, 3 months after the containment of E, K was seen diverting from its normal flight pattern, heading towards an area in the North Sea.
Oh.
For some reason, K had suddenly engaged with a global occult coalition transport ship, an action that had so far never been recorded.
Global coalition, you're crazy.
Normally attacked when provoked. The Foundation swooped in to assist, and managed to drive away K from the transport ship.
I'm surprised.
They then offered transport assistance to the ship, but the GOC refused and continued on, eventually docking in Norway. At the same time that this skirmish was going on, E had become increasingly active, necessitating the activation of previously untested technology to further increase the containment temperature.
I wonder if K is coming over to help E. That would be kind of cool. Like, that would be interesting if one of them are like captured or contained, it'll halt the existence of the other two, or they'll have a feeling of like what's happening. Like they have like some some kind of telekinesis about like, oh, this one's in danger. Like they're connected some way. That'd be kind of cool.
Also, several tremors were felt near the site of S, and seismographs revealed that a large portion of the cave system had collapsed, and S has since moved upwards no less than 70 meters. So yeah, it would seem that the GOC were up to some shenanigans, and they've got the three entities upset. Sometime after those events, the Foundation received a transmission from the GOC, informing the Foundation that they are forbidden from further involvement with 3 specific paranormal entities.
Yo.
The first is given the codename Mars by the GOC, a massive winged scorpioid entity.
Okay, that's K. Yep.
The second is called Pluto, a large human-like entity that dramatically alters the total energy of the system directly surrounding it. E.
Which is crazy in itself.
The third, though, is called Eros, a small, partially mummified, vaguely human-like entity currently in possession of the GOC.
In possession?
We haven't really heard about this one yet, and the Foundation doesn't believe that Eros is one of the 3 entities described in the Connington set.
What? So that's not us. And it's in control of the GOC. Did I hear that right? What the heck?
Entity currently in possession of the GOC.
Possession?
We haven't really heard about this one yet.
Bro.
And the Foundation doesn't believe that Eros is one of the 3 entities described in the Connington set.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it.
Not one of the 3 profane entities.
Is it the retracted one?
The GOC know that the Foundation have E, and tell them to make every effort to destroy it, as well as turn over all info they have about it and the other 2 entities to the GOC.
Oh, God.
See, the GOC don't have the information from the Connington set, but the Foundation doesn't have some info that the GOC have found, meaning no one's playing with a full hand of cards. The GOC tells them that the Russians managed to get a tracking device on K a few years ago, allowing them to accurately follow its path.
Oh.
It seems to be looking for something. They believe that E, K, and the Eros entity they have are the 3 profanities, and they're looking for the princess that cursed them into existence.
What? So EK and the other one, Eros or whatever his name is looking for the princess, which is S. And is the princess still hiding? Well, she's probably not hiding. She was, sent down there. But they're cursed. So were they humans beforehand? Was one of those people the king? Okay, this is getting really good.
Following K's path, it appears to be favoring someplace in France, the cave where S is located.
Mm-hmm.
They thought that Eros was the princess at first, but it's too small to be a human woman, and the physiology is all wrong. Like I said, the GOC don't have all the info.
Damn.
And they have no idea that fairies were involved. This means that S is not the princess.
What?
Eros is. They've been trying to kill Eros to weaken the princess, which they believe to be in the cave, not realizing that Eros is the princess.
Wow.
K attacked their transport ship containing Eros to free her, because only the princess can fully control the 3 of them, including the profane Dark, which is the entity in the cave.
That's the S.
The Foundation realizes at this point that things are very close to complete disaster.
Holy shit.
And rush to completely seal in the cave while trying to figure out a way to shoot K out of the sky. So
she's controlling them because she put the curse on them. Yo, she is playing all of them. Oh my God.
All in all, this is just a lot of fun world building, with glimpses of past anomalous civilizations, and the way that ancient history in the SCP universe often sticks around to complicate the present.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like the way they did it.
I mostly covered this SCP to provide some background info for another SCP, 4840, but it's a great article on its own, too. Funny that this all came about because a single king wasn't satisfied with his kingdom, and unfortunately attacked some very wrathful folk.
Because he was bored. Oh my God. Dang, and that's it. Okay, let's read this. The last of the profanities they laid upon the doom of the house of Apollyon was no depiction in any text, save for a black smear. This was the king of horrors, the profane Dark, the one who festered in the enemy's grave until it soaked through the earth and burst forth like a fetid tide. The curse on the Sky King's lips, as it pulled him into the void, called the great terror Yash, the last foe of man. with Lahira's sword, Lancelot's mace, Hector's spear, and Igor's faith, the full might of the sunken sorrow was brought to bear on Apollo's broken heart, which shattered with the ruined kingdom. Wrath, he spoke. Wrath, wrath, wrath. Yo, that was something crazy. This was like a whole ride. Anything else? Nope, it's over. This was a good one, guys. This was a good, at least to me. I felt like this was an interesting SCP, mainly because it was something I had no idea about, because it's 3 different anomalies within this SCP, which is all tied together because they were all cursed by the queen. Yo, and the twist was they were looking for the queen thinking it was us, but the whole time it was the one that wasn't one of the profanities. The whole time. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. This was great. If you guys enjoyed it too, smash that like button and also hit the sub button, join the family, and turn on that bell so you don't miss an upload. And unfortunately, today, that concludes today's episode. However, I'll catch you guys on the next one. With